Well, on today's show, I have the distinct honor and privilege of being joined by the president of a company called Tranzact Card, one of the presidents. I found out about this particular card. I've spoken about it before on the radio show, and I thought, well, what a better way than to actually bring one of the pillars of the establishment onto our show and grill them with some questions so that all of our listeners can learn a little bit more about this amazing, wonderful tool that they now have available to them. And so, without further ado, Mr. Eric Allen, welcome to the show, sir.
Mike, thanks for having me on, brother. Best part of my life, getting to spend time with guys like you.
If you don't mind, just tell us a little bit, who is Eric Allen, and why should our listeners pay attention to anything that you have to say?
Now, that's a good question. I'll tell you what, Eric Allen, I'm a believer. I'm a father. I'm a husband to a beautiful wife that would not only tolerate me, but bear my children. I live here in the great Midwestern part of our country in Zionsville, Indiana, and former inner city teacher, college basketball coach, and then went down this crazy, amazing, emotional entrepreneurial journey. I run a holdings company, a lot of traditional businesses, got a 501c3. And you know what, man, I've come a long way. God's not finished with me yet, but just try to follow the golden rule and always stay open to opportunities, especially if they can really disrupt and positively impact other people's lives.
Yeah, amen on that. I love the ability to do exactly what you said in that positive impact. And anytime you can positively affect somebody else and it makes them smile, it also makes you smile, right? But how did you first hear about Tranzact Card, and then why did you decide to become a part of it? Maybe you can speak to what the differentiator was and what made you decide to become involved in the first place.
That's a great question. Well, here's what's interesting. The last 2 years of my season of my life have been they've been quite the journey, brother. It's been a blessing in many ways, probably from the outside looking in, financially in other ways, but it has been a grind. A couple of my businesses have fortunately really thrived the last couple of years, but that's required, as any of you business owners know, I mean, literally 15-hour work days, 7 days a week, nonstop. And I got a call about 10 months ago from a dear brother that I just love and respect. One of those guys that as you get older, you appreciate. They've never told you a half truth, a lie. They've never been disingenuous. So one of my best friends called me up. He's on the corporate side of our movement here with Tranzact Card and said, Eric, I got something that's really disruptive. I want you to take a look at it. And I remember I said, John, bro, I'll look at anything, especially if it's coming from you. But I as soon as I come up for air, I will take a look. I promise. And it was actually my wife, Mike, probably a week later is like, hey, did you ever get back with John? You love John. You take a look at what he's doing. I mean, I think she wanted to see me less than she already was, maybe to preserve the marriage. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I jumped on a Zoom with Peter Rancy, the co-founder, the main founder of Tranzact Card, and just fell in love with this idea of disrupting the way people think about banking and being a positive social approach really to humanity. And I've been saying this for 20 years. You've heard me say this a lot. I've said, man, if somebody can figure out a way for us all to benefit together based off the everyday purchases that people in our communities, our churches, our networks are going to make, whether it's gas, groceries, utility bills, coffee, gym membership, whatever, if we could all benefit together, that would be kind of that holy grail of entrepreneurship. And that's what I saw in Tranzact Card. But here's what I did. I did 2 Zooms with Peter and those guys out in Provo, Utah. And I said, I got to go just, sit eyeball to eyeball, kneecap to kneecap, and just really get a sense of the heart, looking to, the souls are the eyes are the gateway to the soul. And just jumped on a plane, my own time and dime, spent a weekend with them, and just fell in love with this idea of truly changing the world. I mean, I know it's a big God-sized dream. I said, man, we can really transform people's lives and ultimately the world with this movement. And I remember my wife, right before I got on the plane to come back, she's like, well, question mark. And I said, well, honey, I've got to do it. I mean, this is something that I want to retire into. This is something that is bigger than anything that I could have possibly imagined on my own. And yeah, Cut to the chase, brother. As you know, I just shared with 86 of the best people I know. Not everybody said yes, but 86 did. A couple hundred were like, well, maybe not now. 86, just because I've been a serial entrepreneur, I hang out with lots of crazy people, but I tried to really handpick good human beings, like people, and some are entrepreneurs, some are pastors, some are stay-at-home moms. I just want to bring in really good people, because anything that's relationship driven, ultimately is going to come down to those relationships and the culture that you can co-create. And about 12 of those 86 were at the right season of life, said, hey, this can be really powerful. And that those 12 have turned into over 100,000 that have said yes in just the last 9 months. So it's been a crazy ride. We're just getting started. And even I traded 15-hour days for 20-hour days right now, just because I'm but it's a different kind of busy. I'm connecting with like-minded people like yourself, Sam, just good people that really want to help other people in different facets of life.
Yeah, you mentioned making a positive social impact, and when I think of banking, I don't really think of positive social impact experiences. And so, can you talk more about the mission and what they're actually not trying to accomplish, but accomplishing in like a meteoric rise in over 100,000 people in America that have jumped on board this rocket ship literally just in the past few months. So can you speak a little bit more about the social impact on banking that they're actually doing right now?
100%. I don't want to offend any of your listening audience, but I'll just tell you up front and center. I mean, if this was linked to any of the big banks, the big regional banks, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I mean, personally, I think they're evil. I think they're greedy. I don't think they're in the best interest of society in general, certainly not even their own customers, right? So the idea of partnering up with community banks, minority-owned banks, and really, Mike, a lot of people don't realize, that has always been the bedrock of our society, is the community banking infrastructure. And today there's less than 4,000 community banks in our country. So getting down to those grassroots level, uplifting those local communities, supporting local banks, and then designing a financial ecosystem that not only helps the community banks, but all of the members that come into our community to stretch their dollars further, to do things they probably never thought possible. It's just been absolutely remarkable how this has caught on. And we're living in a very cynical world now. People have access to more information. They're kind of seeing behind the curtains, and that can go both ways, right? We know that. But I think people are just kind of waking up, like, maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's a better way to these old paradigms that, quite truthfully, don't serve humanity on a grand scale.
Right. So I've shared on my show before that, I was first approached by somebody back in, I think it was late April of this year, who said, hey, I've got this rewards card. You need to take a look at it. And my immediate response was, I have plenty of those. I don't need it. And so I just dismissed them. And then I was approached by somebody else that I know and like and respect in June. And he says, hey, I got this rewards card. You need to take a look at it. And again, he didn't shake my cage enough. He didn't rattle me enough to actually take a look at it. And so again, I passed. And it wasn't until one of my buddies, who just happens to be a millionaire, I heard him talking to someone else. And I said, hey, are you talking about that rewards card? And he said, yeah. He goes, I said, I've heard about it. And he looked at me like I had a third eyeball right here in the middle of my forehead. And he said, and you haven't jumped on it? And I said, are you telling me I should? And he said, yeah. And so can you speak a little bit more about the actual rewards? I mean, what people can do with the card that enables them to not get to spend their money once, but twice.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. By the way, you heard about this probably 4 weeks after I joined, because I joined in March. I was kind of the first one to get it going here. So you were there at the very beginning. But
if only.
Here's what's interesting. I mean, there's so many layers to this, right? And that's why it's so important for people to really carve out 10 or 15 minutes and see the entire narrative from A to Z. Because when you talk about banking, well, that's boring.
Yes.
Talk about rewards programs, they're scammy. I mean, it's just like, let's be honest, and people are justified in that, in fact, if you've been studying Congress, they're getting ready to rip apart the credit card ecosystems as we know it, because they're just designed to enslave people into more debt. They lure you in with gimmicky airline miles, hotel points, low APR, and then it jacks up. And so at the end of the day, all we want to do is, and I don't know if people can see this screen, but we just want to get this card, our Tranzact card. It works just like a bank debit card, into the hands of tens of millions of Americans first, and then we can take it to the rest of the world. We can even take this into unbanked countries down the road to really do some transformational things. But you kind of hit it on the head. It's like, okay, I have to go spend money, or I want to go spend money on certain things. And in most cases, you spend the money, it's gone. Unless you have like the best credit card I have in my wallet. I've got them all. The best one I had was one that paid me 3.5% cash back. So, okay, I spent $100, I get $3.50. The problem is, unless my wife pays it off at the end of the month, I usually forget about it. Then I get hit with a 19.99% APR interest. So there's all the cash is gone, right? Just in the interest fees. Well, with this card, keep in mind your money is it's secure in one of our community FDIC insured banking partners. Okay, it's not just floating around in thin air like it is with Zelle and Venmo and PayPal. A lot of people don't realize that's not secure.
Right.
Okay, you're just transferring in as little or as much as you want. There's no APR, there's no overdraft fees, and then you simply go out, you swipe, you tap. Let's say you had $100 worth of groceries. Well, you choose to use our card instead of any others. Now you're going to immediately get 100 Z-Bucks. That is our reward system, except it's not gimmicky. It's really easy to understand. Each one of those Z-Bucks has a real $1 value within the Tranzact Card ecosystem. And within the ecosystem, you'll see our Z Club, which is eventually going to have millions of all the products, name brand stuff. This isn't cheap stuff from overseas. I know a lot of your listeners are probably thinking that. A lot of people do. All the same name brand stuff. We do weekly flash sales where you can use all Z-Bucks to get on a cruise ship, get a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses, get some things that you probably wouldn't buy on your own necessarily right away. But hey, if it's all Z-Bucks and a little bit of shipping and handling, why not? And then we have a travel club platform. Right now, every day people are like, hey, I just saved $30 on a hotel. I just saved $300 on a cruise. So the key is that there has to be real value within the ecosystem for those Z-Bucks. And I would challenge anybody, go into your current credit card back office, try to do the algorithm on your airline miles or the other reward points. And I think most people say, yeah, it's kind of gimmicky. I mean, they're just used to the gimmick, right?
Yeah.
We actually want people to engage with our ecosystem through our app, which is world-class, through our world-class website, back office, digital experience. So that stickability, where the only downside to this is the Z-Bucks really do become quite addictive. It's a good addiction, but you're going to want to start accumulating more and more and more of those Z-Bucks, because to your point, in the Midwest, we call it a twofer. Hey, take that money you're going to spend anyway, spend it again in the form of Z-Bucks, buy down the price of the items you really want, maybe get some items for free, get on some vacations. And I think the greatest byproduct, the thing I take the most pride in, you're a great example. It's really the caliber of the people that we're attracting. I mean, they're really good human beings. I mean, we don't have to overhype it. Our truth today is good enough. Today's the worst we'll ever be. Next month's the worst we'll ever be. It's just going to continue to grow and scale and add more and more everyday value to people's lives.
Yeah, I love the fact that you say today is the worst you're ever going to be. And here's a company that's less than a year old, right? So the ecosystem as it stands today is not nearly going to be in a year from now. We're going to probably look back and think, wow, how funny was it back when we had you on the radio show? And you start to see products that you can find pretty much anywhere at any time, except now you can go to that direct retailer and check their price. You can go to Amazon and check their price, or you can go to the Z Club and check their price. And guess what? The price is going to be the same within a dollar or two. But here's the difference on our ecosystem, or the Tranzact Card ecosystem. You can utilize your Z-Bucks and then buy down that product's price to near wholesale pricing, which in and of itself, I mean, I think of the single mom who is trying to, put diapers on her kids. I think of the senior citizens who are living on a very fixed income. A lot of them are dependent upon Social Security. I think of our lower wage earners like police and firefighters and educators, which in and of itself is an absolute tragedy in the United States. But I think about how those people are able to spend their money not only one time, but then get dollar for dollar. So correct me if I'm wrong, but if they spent $70 at the pump, they're going to get 70 Z bucks. If they take their kids out to a movie and spend, heck, now these days it's probably close to $100 on tickets and popcorn, right? But they're going to get $100 in Z bucks. And if they take their wife out on a date night and they spend $80 on a meal out with their spouse, they're going to get $80 again to spend. So just in those three instances, right, they're earning a lot of money to be able to spend again.
100%, man. I mean, it's funny you say movies, because the first time I swiped my card, I just loaded $200 into my account. I just transferred from my primary checking account into my Tranzact Card FDIC insured account. And we went to the movies. I took the whole family. Now, the 200 didn't even get us to the second round of concessions, but I'm getting a text notification. I'm getting an email notification. I see the Z-Bucks accruing, very secure environment. I'm like, wow, being an IT guy, I know what it takes just to get to that point. And, it's easy to focus on what we don't have. People don't realize, it took Amazon 35 years to get to where they're at today. Okay. And I'll just get out of the bag. By the way, friends, if you want to participate, it's $25. If you join before the end of the year, it's $25 one time for life. That comes with the Eric Allen money back guarantee. If you don't love your Tranzact card within a few months, I'll give you your $25 back. We want you to come in, explore, and see the value continue to grow and grow. Last point made that I think most people don't realize. Here we are, and what still is, we can talk about the direction our country's gone, but it still is the most prosperous country in the history of civilization. And it would shock most people, but it wouldn't surprise them once they think about it. There's over 100 million Americans in our country right now, and some of those professions you alluded to, who have to get very creative to be able to pay their bills on time each month. The money is getting eroded. The value is getting eroded through inflation, for sure. For 100 million people in our country, either have to get really creative to make ends meet, or they can't pay their bills on time at all. So there's a good target market that we can go and help. And if all it does, it allows a mom to buy an extra box of formula, diapers that they normally wouldn't be able to do. I mean, that's a win, right? If it allows them to get on one extra vacation a year, that's a win. If it allows them to get one really cool flash sale item that they probably wouldn't ever buy on their own, that's a win, let alone all those other wants and needs that they're going to see in the Z Club. So yeah, there's some Peter Drucker. I don't know who's credited with this quote. It says, if you're not embarrassed by the way your product looks in version 1, you started too late. Now, most people aren't going to be embarrassed when they see all the things we do have, this world-class website, the app, the e-commerce that we built from the ground up the last months. And heck, Mike, when you and I joined, we didn't even have a Z Club. We actually have a Z Club now. It just keeps getting better and better.
It does. And to that fact, there's also on the app, they have a product called the Easy Power Card that, if I'm not mistaken, allows you to buy gift cards to other retail establishments. So we're talking about name brand retail establishments, from restaurants to big box stores to luxury items. And when you do that, you also earn the equivalent on what you spent on the gift card in Z-Bucks to then go spend again. So, I mean, I think that is huge in and of itself. But, a lot of folks are, have said that this just sounds way too good to be true. I mean, because they are so used to the 1%, 1.5%. You mentioned 3.5%. I happen to have a Capital One, Spark card that pays 2% cash back. But, how exactly are the banks making money, and how can Tranzact Card afford to actually do this? Because on the surface, all right, it does seem too good to be true.
Yeah, I get that a lot too. And I say, well, first of all, closed minds don't get fed. We know that. But to me, it's not a huge ask either, especially if it comes with a Eric Allen money back guarantee. It's like, hey, it's $25, guys. I would almost guarantee within a few weeks or a day, you're going to realize $25 worth of value when you get that card. But the way this whole thing works, it's really brilliant the way it's set up when you peel back the layers. First of all, we've already got 100,000. Imagine we have millions of people. They're paying $25 for a Tranzact card one time. Anybody that joins after the start of the year is going to pay $25 one time annually. You can do the math on that. Okay. And then when we go to these banks, think of the leverage we have. What do banks desperately want? What are the community banks really bad at? Marketing. They need customers, right? So
Yep.
we're basically bringing them customers, because at the end of the day, all the banks want are the core deposits on their books for the checking accounts. Okay. We're setting up checking accounts with our banking partners. They love that. And then within our card processor, okay, the banks. And then you'll see here, we know MasterCard has come to the fold now, so that we just let that cat out of the bag. They came in and gave us more favorable rates. So we're able to negotiate a lot of those interchange fees. Now, a lot of people aren't well versed on interchange fees. That's what makes the banks and the merchant processors a ton of money. I mean, I challenge you, go into any big city in America, go to any small town, the biggest building is going to be a bank, and you're going to see MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Discover plastered everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we get to play in that world. We get to negotiate and keep and retain a portion of those interchange fees. And swipe after swipe after swipe after swipe, or tap after tap after tap, generates interchange fees. So then we get to the Z Club. The Z Club, if you're looking at these different revenue centers for the company, unlike Amazon, traditional retailers, Tranzact Card doesn't have to do the 3x, 5x, 7x markup on the products, right? It's a brilliant model because we're already profitable through these other revenue centers. That's what allows us to negotiate and get these great rates on products that people really want. So I get that all the time. People are like, this is too good to be true. How is Transact Card going to stay profitable? You guys can go bankrupt like next month. I hear that. I'm like, well, and then I explain it. The shrewd business people are like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Why did anybody ever think of this? I'm like, well, thanks to Peter Rancy, who started the U.S. Bankers Association, our main founder, we're able to do these things.
Yeah, and I think you hit the word or the nail on the head when you use the word disruptor. I mean, this is very similar to the way Amazon, because you've mentioned them, disrupted the retail business. It is very similar to the way that Netflix disrupted our movie going experience, right? I remember having to return a rewound VHS to Blockbuster, and that went out the door. I'm also watching on Netflix right now the story of how Uber came into existence, and Uber revolutionized and disrupted the cabbing and transportation industry. So I love the fact that Tranzact Card has a chance to disrupt a formal, stuffy banking industry and give the power back to the people in the form of extra dollars to spend. But, in its brief history, has the company undergone any growing pains? And what would you say to those folks who, are saying, man, this will never work, right? Because I'm assuming that there were people who said that Netflix would never work and Amazon would never work and Uber would never work. But what would you say to those folks?
Well, what's great is I've got my Netflix subscription on my Tranzact Card. Everything Amazon's on my Tranzact Card, so we get to play in their world too. So, here's what I would say, and I thank God for the business experience I've had. I've started 17 traditional businesses. 5 have done very well. 1 has done exceptionally well. Okay. And I can't remember starting up a single one of those businesses for less than 5 figures, and a lot of them 6 figures, multiple 6 figures. I can't think of one.
Facts.
And I can't remember paying myself. The earliest I would have paid myself would have been about 18 months after starting those up. That's just the life of an entrepreneur. All your business owners are probably nodding their head like, yeah, they're probably somewhere like, you're able to pay yourself in less than 2 years. That's amazing. So here's the thing. we're trying to disrupt not only banking, e-commerce. We have a whole charitable giving fundraising component coming out at the start of the year. We're going to completely shift that paradigm of fundraising and charitable giving. This idea of entrepreneurship, those that want to participate in the financial opportunity. We're disrupting some of the largest sectors. I never wished for it to be easy. And those that come in, now getting a card is easy. That's a no-brainer, $25. But for me, I remember flying back on the plane and I said, God, if it's meant to be, you're just going to put the right people on the corporate path and the field leadership path. And we're going to come together and it is going to be something just magical. And we are going to come in scrapes, bruises, broken bones. But that's just the life of any startup. I mean, the whole key to any startup is to survive your first year.
Yes.
They never
Absolutely.
even survived that point. So here we are. We're not even a full year old. And again, it's easy to focus in this microwave society and that microwave mentality of what we don't have yet. Look at everything we do have. And most importantly, the proof of concept with over 100,000 people that have said, yes, this makes sense. I want to be a part of it is pretty impressive.
I think it is extraordinarily impressive. And not only that, you're talking about a list of national organizations that have contracted to support the Tranzact Card. Organizations like Make-A-Wish Foundation, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, the Salvation Army, AAA, AARP, and so many more. Now, Eric, why in the world would those organizations agree to do exactly what they've agreed to do?
I know it always kind of cracks me up when, my buddy who I try to save over and over and over is like, I don't know, man, be careful. I don't think that's going to work. And I'm like, brother, I mean, no, but have you vetted us to any degree that these major organizations and celebrities, influencers have? I mean, they want to be a part of that because they see it as cutting edge and disruptive. They see the power in what's already unfolding and what's going to unfold, and they want to be a part of it. So it's when you're able to say you're a startup, that scares people. I mean, it scares the masses, right? Well, get back to me when you're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Well, that's fine. Transact Card will be a heck of a lot better then than it is today. There's no doubt about it. But I also say, you know what? Everything rises and falls on leadership. And the fact is, we just announced our new banking partner. Okay, it's one of the larger community banks in the country, and they have international divisions. Okay, they are chomping at the bit to work with us. Having that steady foundation allows us to plug in more of the smaller community banks that don't have that technological infrastructure and customer support to handle, droves of new customers quickly. And you talk about being FDIC insured with your money. And and then you start talking about the brands that we already have in the Z Club and the partnering organizations. It's like I haven't ever seen a startup that brings that much credibility right out of the gate.
Neither have I. So, I just think that any of our listeners who want to get the card, Sam, I think you were going to kind of just, wrap this up. And Eric, thank you so much for your time. But, Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, Eric, appreciate you coming on the program. First, just wanted to tell everybody listening to Money Matters with Mike and listening to the interview here with Eric Allen to visit fightback.transactcard.com. And that's Tranzact spelled TRANZACT, fightback.transactcard.com to learn more about what Eric's been talking about today. But Eric, Mike and I were talking this morning before we recorded the show. And, I was saying, man, I feel like the best you can ever do with a credit card is maybe you save a few $1,000s with, airlines and hotels. And I got to tell you, I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've got a credit card that's affiliated with a airline I will not name, but I've flown all over this great country to Italy and back this year. And what you get in return for that is quite disappointing. And I just feel like a lot of people are realizing that their loyalty to these certain brands is not being rewarded. Why would you not participate in something that could allow you to engage with so many different brands rather than be tied to just one? And for me, I see that as the primary value offer you guys have.
100%, man. And here's the thing. If you want to keep using your other credit cards, keep using those. I mean, we actually have a program that's going to come out that's going to allow you to double dip with us. I mean, we thought of all those things, but I was that guy. And then because mine was American Airlines. I'm like, no, wait a minute. Okay. I just put $100,000 on this card, and I did get a business class round trip from here to the West Coast. And then they were all gone. I was like, is that it? My miles are gone. I was like $100,000 flight. I mean, come on. So I think people are waking up. I think everybody can go research what's going on within our congressional legislature. And it's going to be a really huge shift coming, because while some of us may enjoy those perks, a lot of others get lured in, and then they're just enslaved to that debt. So we're the exact opposite. We want to help people stretch their money further and have that money to pay down the debts that many people have.
Yep. And so whether it's something that you have on auto pay or whether it's something you're just going to go out, we're not asking anybody to do anything that they're not already doing. You don't have to train yourself to pull out a different card. I mean, you just use the Tranzact card. I mean, it is truly that simple. And once again, that web address is Fight Back. If you want to fight back against inflation, put more money in your pocket, it is fightback.transactcard with a Z.com. Fightback.transactcard.com. Eric, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and impart your wisdom to our listeners. And I'm hoping that a lot of them will actually go and spend $25 one time. They've got your guarantee. And wow. I mean, because my annual fee for my credit cards are much higher than $25. And when we're talking about $25 one time for life, as long as it's done by the end of the month, guys and gals listening to this, that is something special. So, Eric, again, thank you for your time, and I wish you the best, sir.
God bless you, brother. Keep up the good fight. Appreciate you.